Greetings, I'm Jed Shlackman. I work as a holistic counselor, which includes psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, and energy healing modalities. For this video, I'm speaking about the topic of healing trauma and working with hypnotherapy, how valuable and powerful that can be, and how it connects us to a more expanded or more spiritual perspective on our life experience, on our memories. It helps us transcend what you could call a victim consciousness. It helps us essentially integrate and embrace all of our experiences as part of our journey, as part of our path of being a spiritual being, having this human experience. And as we navigate that experience, we're reconnecting more and more with our spiritual essence as we do go through healing, as we do release our resistance to experiences and reclaim those parts of ourself, reclaim that energy that may have been invested in suppressing or avoiding experiences and emotions. So the hypnosis process is a process where we help our conscious mind relax and let go, so that part of us that's attached to our emotions and our beliefs and so on is able to relax and allow a deeper part of our awareness or deeper part of our consciousness to help support us and guide us as we look at our memories or experiences from a different perspective, where we're not going to be overwhelmed by those experiences anymore, where we can understand sometimes that there's a greater purpose for why we've gone through different things in our life, what our soul may have intended to explore or learn through these experiences, and we see things more from the point of view of wholeness rather than things being just negative or bad, rather than feeling like we're a victim of life. We can see that life is here to serve our consciousness, to help us in our spiritual evolution, and we're not limited by our human personality or persona. We're not limited by this identity, by what the human self may have experienced. We are actually an expression of a limitless consciousness, of a pure awareness that has no reason to feel any guilt, any regret, any shame, any fear, etc. Those are all temporary experiences or temporary aspects of being a human being. They're not who we are on a more innate level, on a more essential or intrinsic level. So with hypnosis, I'm helping people access that deeper part of themselves, so that can be there as a resource to help them face and embrace whatever memories, whatever experiences may have previously seemed highly disturbing or highly traumatic. That process may involve guiding a person to envision themselves in some type of safe or secure environment. It may involve guiding them to connect with some type of spiritual guide, a spiritual being that brings them that sense of being safe and supported. It might be someone connecting with Jesus or an angel, a deceased ancestor, someone or something that they feel connected to that helps them have that sense of security, that sense that they are supported and connected to that higher source as they may review a particular memory or experience. In the psychotherapy field, there's been a lot of neglect, a lot of suppression of the use of hypnosis for varying reasons. Some people are just kind of afraid of it. For some people, there's the idea that with hypnosis, the client or patient is vulnerable, that the therapist could say something, some suggestion that ends up being in some way negative or harmful. And from the client point of view, there's the fear that they won't be able to control the process and they'll uncover some unpleasant memory that they won't feel ready to face or review. I understand all those different concerns. However, when hypnosis is done in a caring, compassionate, and conscious manner, it's actually quite safe. It helps the person feel more calm, more settled, and it allows them to access deeper resources that will help them face any unpleasant experiences, so that those unpleasant experiences are not stuck there in their subconscious, having that subconscious control over them, where people are reacting to things in their life based upon those unresolved experiences, on how they may have adapted to distressing circumstances in their past. What we resist persists, and if we're resisting aspects of our own experiences, our own life journey, then whatever patterns of reaction may have been imprinted there, those will continue to have that unconscious control over us, since we haven't integrated them. We haven't brought together those aspects of ourself so that we can really consciously use the different resources or patterns that we've developed and choose when they're suitable and when they're not suitable. So if our conscious and unconscious are disconnected from each other, then we'll just kind of impulsively react to things without the conscious awareness being able to play kind of an executive role or director role to choose when something is suitable for the present situation and when it's not. We might be reacting to our present situation based upon how we reacted to something stressful when we were 5 years old or 2 years old, and that reaction is not serving us here in the present, but because we never actually resolved that past trauma, we never integrated that emotion or memory or that part of ourself essentially, then it can take over and make us act irrationally and interfere with our current well-being. With hypnosis, we can integrate those aspects of ourself so that we're no longer stuck with those emotions and beliefs that were directing our past reactions. We can have a state of resolution in a sense, so that now here in the present we can be fully present and more conscious. We can access the totality of our energy, of our consciousness, and have a more mindful reaction to whatever we're going through in the present moment. So that's enabling us to be more healthy and whole, not fragmented, not stuck in some unconscious reaction from another time. The hypnosis process has some similarities to other healing modalities and healing processes. So it's guiding you into that deep state of consciousness where you're able to perceive things from a different perspective or expanded perspective. Some people use psychedelic substances to facilitate similar processes or healing opportunities. A key difference between using chemical substances and hypnosis is that with hypnosis you can rather instantly withdraw yourself from that state if you feel you need to or desire to, so you're not being chemically catapulted into that altered state of consciousness. It's being done in a more conscious, intentional way where you can choose at any moment to come back into your regular alert or waking state of consciousness. Whereas with chemical substances, because they've altered the brain activity on that chemical level, then you can be kind of immersed in that state for a while due to the chemical alteration of brain function. And if you want to immediately withdraw from that state, it's not simple to do that. You may end up having to stay in that state for a while and waiting for the chemical effect to subside so that you come back into your essentially normal, per se, waking state. So that's a key difference, and one reason why I feel that hypnotherapy is a safer approach, especially for people that have difficulties with being stuck in dissociative states. With hypnosis, it's guiding you through that altered state in a conscious, intentional way where chemicals aren't going to keep you in that state longer than you might choose to be there. In the current state of the field of psychotherapy, there are some other trauma processing methods that have become popular. One of those is EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and in that process a person is in a somewhat more conscious state. Their eyes are open and they're thinking consciously of particular memories or experiences and using different resources to help reprocess things, and also using the movement of the eyes and other forms of what are called bilateral stimulation. Bilateral means both sides, so something that stimulates both sides of the body to access both brain hemispheres, which in turn accesses both the conscious and subconscious mind so that they can coordinate with one another and communicate with one another rather than going into a state of disconnection, which has often happened at the time of the original trauma. Trauma activates our survival programming, and in that state it will tend to increase activity in some parts of the brain and suppress activity in other parts of the brain because it's facilitating an immediate kind of instinctual reaction, so you don't have time in that instant to stop and think about what you're doing. You're just reacting immediately for a sense of safety or security. That reaction might involve fighting, it might involve fleeing, it might involve freezing, it might involve trying to please or appease people in your environment. So when a person is responding to trauma in that instant, they may not be stopping to think about which of those responses they're using. It's kind of a default safety mechanism to be able to react instantly. So when that happens, there are parts of the brain and the nervous system being stimulated, whereas the parts of the brain that involve more conscious, more cautious thought processes will be suppressed. And in the healing process, we want to kind of bring those parts of the brain together, where the conscious thought process can mediate those instant reaction processes so that they don't take over, they don't prevent you from choosing what reaction will be best in the here and now. So with hypnosis, that tends to happen somewhat automatically, whereas you're reprocessing something under hypnosis and you're describing what's happening as you communicate with a therapist. Those two parts of the brain are able to communicate and interact, and you're not trapped in reacting the way that you did originally. You can perceive how that happened at that time, but now you have resources to look at things in a different way and to think about what's going to help you feel more peace and more calmness here and now, what's going to allow you to get through whatever that past experience was and settle back into more of a state of equilibrium, where you're able to be present, where you don't feel you have to fight, you don't have to flee, you're not frozen, you can just observe whatever is occurring with an understanding that who you truly are, your actual self, is always safe. So you're not going to be killed or destroyed or decimated in any way by whatever was occurring to your past self. Right here and right now, you're okay. And even if anything was harming you physically, your spiritual consciousness is actually immortal or eternal, you could say. And that part of you is transcendent, even if your past self or past life self got killed, the consciousness actually continued. It's moving on to other experiences, to other bodies or incarnations, so you don't have to be afraid anymore of whatever may have occurred in a different time. And regression hypnotherapy is valuable in helping people access that understanding, helping people release the trauma from other times, even if that trauma involved being assaulted, raped, killed, completely neglected, whatever form of trauma may have occurred. The individual is able to move through that and beyond that, and no longer be stuck in that state where they felt overwhelmed or felt severely distressed. You don't have to remain there, or that part of your consciousness that went through that experience doesn't have to remain there. It can move through it and then be reintegrated with your here and now sense of self, so that you'll actually have access to your whole being. You'll feel kind of more present, more grounded, more able to use your energy, to use your will, to use your conscious intention here in the present moment. So for those that are exploring healing, and especially those that are curious about hypnotherapy, I would invite and encourage you to look into it further, to consider how that can be a very powerful resource for addressing any emotional challenges you've had, any unresolved traumas, and also recognizing that the psychological patterns or issues are very often related to physical health concerns that we're dealing with, since our physical body is very frequently expressing or reflecting patterns that are there in the subconscious. Your physical body is always in some way impacted by what's occurring on a deeper level, on the subconscious, mental, and emotional levels, and you could even say on the spiritual level, since everything is part of our spiritual journey. If you're interested in additional resources and information, I invite you to visit my website, phinsights.com, phinsights.com. For now, I wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.